Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl Sequoia, Silicon Valley tech editor for Black Enterprise, and I am super excited today because we are here with Jay Jackson, founder and CEO, and Mike Felix, CTO of Ryse, a multicultural video on demand network. I am so excited to hear more about this, guys. So,
okay.
How did this come about?
Oh, wow. You know, we really started Ryse as this company. We started in the traditional media space, and we wanted to create this company that kind of focused on celebrating, young professionals who were doing, dynamic and wonderful things. And I never forget, man. I told one of the young ladies who was a part of our team, I said, hey, I want you to watch something on TV. I wanted her to cover it and do a nice story on it. And she said, I don't have cable, Jay. And I was like, what do you mean you don't have cable? And keep in mind, everybody that other than Mike, the majority of our team is under 25. So I began polling everybody, and I found that, people, a lot of them didn't have cable. And I said, oh, wow, this is a real opportunity. And so we knew that the video on demand space and being able to tell stories in that video space was going to be something that was huge.
Very cool. So with that being said, Ryse represents recognizing the young, successful, and empowered. How did you guys come up with that acronym?
Oh, wow. It's an interesting thing. The acronym came about as a result. One day I was leaving out of church, and this young guy stopped me. And Ryse isn't my first venture. I mean, I had a real estate company that did well and kind of invested in some other small mom and pop businesses when I was younger and came from underserved background. So thankfully did well for myself. And I was leaving out of church one day, and this young guy had just read about me in a local publication. And he came up to me and he stopped me, and he was just talking to me about how he was inspired by the story that he had read about me. And I said, I want to make sure that we get more of those stories out there. And so the name came to me one night. I'll never forget, man. I woke up out of my sleep and Ryse just hit me. And so I began playing around with, instead of just the R-I-S-E, just began playing around with, different ways we could do it. And then it just stuck with the recognizing the young, successful, and empowered.
Love that. And you guys actually launched in 2011 as a magazine, and you guys have gone through some pivots and iterations since then. So tell us a little bit more about why you decided to kind of drop the magazine angle and go to this video on demand angle.
Really, as I shared with you the portion of the story earlier, just understanding where, the next generation, where they're consuming content. Really, to sum it up, I really got sick and tired of the stereotypical images that were often portrayed when it comes to people of color. And I said, we're doing so many dynamic things. And so I wanted to make sure that those stories got told. And so as we began to transition into the video space, that's what made us transition to the Atlanta market. And what I realized when I got to this market is that there are so many creatives, right? And when you talk about creating stories, filmmakers, producers that are telling great stories, but struggle with getting distribution for those stories, struggle with getting those stories out there. I mean, Hollywood, we know, we've been seeing the issues with Hollywood. They're doing a little bit better in terms of the films that they put out towards the end of last year and this year, but we know that a lot of the times when you would see people of color in movies and in television, it was always in these stereotypical roles or whatever. And I was sitting down talking with a creator one day, and she shared with me how she had created this movie. It was a great short that she had won several awards with. And so she was able to land a meeting with a studio executive, which is hard enough in itself if you don't have those type of relationships. Right, and she landed a meeting with them, and so as they began talking with her about her movie and talking about converting it for TV, then they said, well, can you add a barbecue scene, because we know all black people barbecue, and can you add, they wanted her to add in all of these stereotypical things, and it really kind of changed the whole direction of what she had created, and she ultimately turned it down. But how many people don't have that luxury to do that, and they want to have their craft be put out there? But So that's where we decided to go with Ryse and wanted to make sure that we provided a platform for those individuals to have their stories told authentically the way they wanted it to be told, and then to monetize that content as well, which is also a goal, is to make money behind it, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And, if I can kind of add to that,
yeah.
We wanted to get smart with it. So I think the past week made us realize how powerful digital is, right? You had something happen, with United, and you realize that, social media can totally transform the valuation of a company. And so we wanted to be able to generate insights from our readers as well. So a lot of that you can't do with print. So we had to transfer over to digital. And of course, like Jay said, what they consume is exactly where we're positioning ourselves.
Awesome. So Mike, I just want to ask you a little bit, with a CTO role, what made you decide, yes, this is the company for me to join? And also, in terms of the back end, how is this being built out?
Well, I'm a big problem solver. My background's in engineering. And so one of the problems that I noticed from working in engineering companies, I've worked for companies like NASA, and I was asked to join diversity teams. Then I worked for companies like Lockheed Martin. I was asked to join diversity teams. Then I worked for the Department of Defense, diversity teams. I joined the National Society of Black Engineers, diversity. And so what I noticed that was happening was no one was really figuring out this whole diversity and cultural intelligence problem. And Jay's platform, of course, he was transitioning over to digital at the time when he and I got together and started to collaborate. But the problems that he was solving were directly in line with what I was being asked to help with anyway. So, I mean, a lot of it just kind of synergistically came together.
Awesome. And so how are you guys currently acquiring the content?
Oh, man. So we acquired a number of different ways. So when we first started and when we first launched, I was scouring, film festivals, just connecting with a lot of these creators. And it's so, I'll tell you, Sequoia, there's so much content out there that never sees the light of day, so much great content, so many stories. It gets film festival runs, and so if you get to film festivals, then you might see it. But it's just so much great content. So we began working with creators from that perspective, acquiring it from there, licensing it from the film festivals. And then as we begin to roll out, now, I mean, every week I'm getting submissions for content to be placed on the platform. And so, that's really where we are right now, man. So we get, content submitted to us, not to mention we're at film festivals looking for great things. And so it's exciting. It's exciting to just see these creators creating this great stuff and this great content. And the next phase for us is actually development of our own original content as well. So, utilizing the Netflix model where, you have this library of content that people can go through to kind of find different things they like with different genres, but also now being able to create our own content, creating our own stories, working with creators, bringing creators together, award-winning creators, and creating stuff that connects and resonates with the audience. And so it's really great. And when Mike talked about the diversity, we have a series that's coming out that was actually funded by one of our partners, Pepsi. And it's really, now as we see commercials and a lot of these things, with the media or with traditional advertising changing, right now it becomes an opportunity for companies to integrate within content and be a part of it and authentically connect with the audience. So we're happy to be at the, kind of at the forefront of that in the future.
Awesome. And I saw a submission form on the website that you guys are accepting content that way as well.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. They can go to the website as well. And actually, they can visit the website at ontheryse.com/BE. We have a special entry point for them, some special things that they can get just by being a part of this interview right here. So.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, are you guys bootstrapped, or are you venture funded, or how did you guys acquire the funding in order to launch the platform?
Oh, wow. So we were bootstrapped from, we did raise a small amount of capital from friends and family, but that was enough to kind of get things going in the early days, but for the most part, it's bootstrapped. Of course, working with various different companies, we are in the sales mode, so we're always selling, but we are actually in a seed round of funding right now that we're looking to close on really, really soon. So, but everything had been, really bootstrapped from the beginning, and it's not always easy, but sometimes with minority-owned companies, that's the struggle that we see a lot of times.
Yeah. So, Mike, with the platform, how do you see yourselves on the technology side differentiating from the Netflixes and the Hulus of the world?
So like Jay mentioned, one of the reasons why we are raising capital is to attack that second tier problem that I briefly mentioned earlier. And I don't think I really answered your first question, which was, what does the back end of this thing look like? But the thing that's differentiating us is that we're creating a number of algorithms that's going to allow us to become culturally intelligent. So when you look at content, a lot of the things, a lot of the parameters that you just do not understand or get is how you can quantify the way that content is resonating with certain types of cultures, whether it's African Americans, whether it's Asians, whether it's whites, whether it's Hispanics, and it's not stereotypical, but it can be just from a standpoint of a sheer huge sample set of people in those different demographics and how they're consuming the content. So we're still identifying what those parameters even are. We're working with a number of psychologists, sociologists, and we're combining that with the tech folks, the developers, the data scientists to be able to characterize the viewership, but also to be able to help our advertisers, our clients, target their base a little bit better on our platform.
Awesome. And do you guys think that your business model is competitive? Like, why would I come to you all versus going to a Netflix as a content creator?
So Netflix has hit, like, I would say they've kind of hit that critical mass. Like they're out there. So it's a bit difficult for them to pivot when it comes to applying certain algorithms to their platform. And they have to adhere to a certain number of things just because of their partners and certain agreements that they've entered into. We don't have those restrictions. So we're able to apply certain algorithms to our platform to be able to generate certain insights. And because of that, again, it allows us to be way smarter in how we deliver advertisements or any offers or anything to our viewers.
And Sequoia, to your question and to your point, we know Netflix. I mean, they are the industry leaders when it comes to video streaming. But we know that also original content. It's their original content that is the greatest driver of growth, right? That is what drives new traffic. I signed up. I'm a Netflix subscriber, and I signed up because of House of Cards, right? It was only because of House of Cards, and everything else was just kind of gravy. I'm a political junkie. But when we look at their original content, less than 1% of their original content is centered toward the urban market, right? Less than 1% of their original, content, and so we're talking about a market that traditionally over-indexes when it comes to consumption of media, but yet they're the most underrepresented in their stories. And so we see with movies like Fences, and just the beginning of this year, Fences and Get Out and Moonlight and Hidden Figures. I mean, when there's great content that's targeted at us, we love it and we consume it, and we, because we over-index in it. So really our angle from attracting people is really focusing on just great stories that resonate with our core audience, right? And so it's not to say that we're competing against Netflix where you're going to subscribe to Ryse and cancel your Netflix account, but just a place where you can go to get content that you can connect with, you can relate to the storylines, right? It's stories that you see yourself in. And you're like, hey man, it's in addition to what you're already getting with some of those other platforms, but it's stories that resonate really with our core audience.
Okay. So since we're talking about content so much, let's get into a new series that you guys have, Blurreds, the dramedy that follows the struggles and victories of a sometimes awkward yet driven Black girl ready to make her mark in the male-dominated tech industry. So of course we want to know about that. So tell us more about that series.
Oh, I tell you, this came about as a result of friends that I know that are in the tech industry, right? And they're trying to start their company. And it's always, just being an entrepreneur is like this whole sexy thing, right? It's really sexy to be an entrepreneur, to start your own business. But many people don't know the struggles that many entrepreneurs face. And then when you add to that, you're a minority, then you add to that being a woman, right? There's just so many layers that people deal with. And so we wanted to begin to shine a light on that for a couple of different reasons. We wanted people to truly understand the plight that a minority entrepreneur goes through. I mean, you're talking about family, sometimes even your family, getting support from your family. They don't understand what entrepreneurship is about. You need to just go to college, get your degree, and go get a good job, right? And so, raising capital, right? When you don't come from a background of where you don't come from a family that has a lot of money. So how do you get that money to start off with, that friends and family round, when you're coming from a background of people that don't necessarily have those kind of resources, or even understand investing. And then we also wanted people outside of the key demographic of people of color, so to understand that plight as well. So when we're talking about diversity within the industry, we can talk about the struggles that many minority entrepreneurs face to try to get into, or even from an employment standpoint, trying to get on with a company like a Google or a Facebook. We can talk to them about the struggles that they face, but sometimes they don't really understand those things. And so we wanted to create this show that could address those issues in a comical way, right? So we can say, you need to understand those struggles that we go through when it comes time for us to start our own business. And so that's really what the show was about, or is about. And so we wanted to cover it from a number of different angles and add some comedy and levity to it. So
awesome. I'm super excited. I have been down that road, so I will be tuning in. So
Absolutely.
Tell me about this recent partnership that you guys had with Terry Vaughn and her company, Nina Holiday Productions.
Okay, yeah. So we just when we had our launch event, Terry Vaughn was a part of it. Got connected through her through different relationships, and her company, Nina Holiday Productions. She started this company for very much the same reasons why we started Ryse. She wanted to tell those stories. She wanted to produce those stories, because as a female actress, she noticed that the length of time for people in that industry can be relatively short. It's like, who's hot, who's next, and so she said, I wanted to tell those stories, and I wanted to create work for myself. I wanted to create work for other actresses and actors like myself who were looking for opportunities but weren't always given those opportunities. And so it just made sense. So we're working on the details of it now, but her company will be working with us to produce a lot of that original content that we're working on. So Blurge is the first of several series that we are working on. So we have a lineup of things that we've been pooling together from our creatives. So we're excited about it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jay and Mike. We look forward to all that you guys have coming out, and we are excited to see you guys on the Rise. See what I did there?
Absolutely. So we certainly invite the viewers to check out the app and download it. In the app stores. We're available for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Windows devices. So excited.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.